Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David, I'm your host. Today I want to talk about women's football in Trinidad and Tobago. And I have my two comrades who's going to assist me to do that. Jefferson George, welcome to the set.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to be here.
And Anthony Clark, welcome to the set.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Okay, you got the best viewers. You know, we talk football all the time, and all we talk is man. So we want to switch, let the women get some airtime as well, and let's talk about everything surrounding women football. And our football had hit the peak in 2014, and since then we on a serious downslide. So let's discuss first how we get there and how we reach where we are now. And I open it up. Why don't you give us a background then?
All right. Yeah, the women's game, I thought, went through an evolutionary period from 2009, and I had a pretty steady climb, as you said, which culminated in that good run of the team leading up to the Ecuador game and so on. Our women's game mirrors what happens throughout the rest of the Caribbean. I think the development sadly was quite slow. I think a lot of our female players get into the game quite late. Right? There's not much structured football for them at an early age, compared to the males, where you have a lot of competitions even from primary school. That doesn't exist with females. So the model is normally getting athletic girls to come out and participate in football when they are in secondary school, which is the time when they would be able to participate in league football, organized football. And I think during that time, well, there was a couple of clubs, Petrotrin being one of them, who always had a decent females program. And I think that is how we were able to really develop a core players that was existed with coaches like Jamal Chapaz and Marlon and these guys who worked in the women's game. And then getting these players together, I think that is what contributed to the success of, albeit limited, to the 2014 campaign.
There was a league, right, Tony?
Yeah, there was a league at one point in time, but I want to give you the reason for the success.
All right.
And it's no different than the men's game either. Mm-hmm. It's football. And what happened was, as Jeff mentioned, the Jamal Shabazz and Marlon...
Morris?
No, right, not Morris.
No.
I can't remember Marlon's last name.
Yeah.
Charles, right?
Yeah.
They took very young girls and they groomed them, and that was the result in 2014. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. As we start getting results, the association forgets about continuation programs in terms of youth programs. They see the result, they start to earn some income from this batch of players, and that is exactly what happened to the men football as well. Mm-hmm. The group with the Hattapis and Fostins, then right after them with the Hickson and Angad, Steve and Kelvin Jones, and then the group just before them with the Hudson Charles, Kerry Jameson, and so on. Mm-hmm. That took football for 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. With Kenwin Jones was the last of that, and he was the forward, and people criticized him, but he was of some age. It's no different to the women's game. that group of players that Jamal and Marlon Charles groomed from them coming forward, we got that peak, just like we got that peak in 2006 with the team. And then after that, it started going down because we had no programs of preparation of youngsters to replace the players that were there before that are household names in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is what has happened. Now, the last administration, they started a program of elite athletes, and they also brought in women as elite athletes, and they were paying them as professionals to start that all over again. And at the end of the day, Steve, I'm glad we brought this up to show that it's not the men's team alone. It's football on the whole that this tragedy happened, that the administration concentrated on success, and they caused the nation as a whole to only concentrate on the results of the senior teams, both women and men. And that is what that I've been trying to explain over and over on these programs, that we have to start over. We cannot expect to bring in somebody white because that person or international coach, and expect that this international coach will get a national team back to the glory days. We have to understand where it started from, what were the building blocks. And the building blocks to that glory days in 2014 World Cup qualifying were two local coaches. It wasn't an international coach.
Let me put you on the spot, but the David John Williams administration, you said, was concentrating on development.
Correct.
While they were going out with the national team and making money and win or lose, they were making money away and we were developing. How come that didn't happen with the women?
It did happen with the woman. The David John Williams...
The national team, when they brought the woman from Italy or wherever, and she getting paid and the girl getting paid to practice, but not the youth.
All right. Again, you have to remember that they were in preparation for a specific tournament.
The national team.
Right, the national team.
Well,
However,
you said forget the national team.
No, right. Right. What I'm saying is, in terms of the women's program, they had that, but the plans were there to concentrate and ensure that you have women football at all levels as well.
But we didn't have it.
We didn't have it because there were so many different things. Remember, all this is development, Steve. At that point in time, the building block was, let's get a home first, right? Let's get a home so that if women come in, we have somewhere to put them as well. Because people don't understand that football is a grassroots sport. And you have people coming to play sport, right? It's football from all over Trinidad and Tobago. It's a very expensive thing.
I just wanted to point out one thing that you guys didn't do, so I write it up here on the board. That you forgot to that administration forgot to do.
Well, right, you say you guys. I was not part of that administration.
That's why I said that administration.
Okay, all right.
Because you supported. You know,
no, I did not support the administration, and I keep trying to clarify that over and over.
No.
I supported the ideas of youth development.
That's what I'm saying.
Start over with youth development.
That's what I'm saying.
Because we cannot go anywhere with the present crop that we have. We are not going to be successful.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. I said you support, but you didn't give me a chance to say the ideas.
Okay.
So the women, they left out.
They left out the women.
And that is not so.
Right. But when I bring David on the set, I would ask him why.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that I think the points are well taken, and that continues to be an issue with us going forward. I know that there's that dynamic of having to create a developmental framework for specifically for the women is unique, because I said there are gaps in our opportunities that would normally be provided to the boys that are not for young girls to play.
The
right?
structure.
You meant, the structure is not there, right? Clarky mentioned the league as well, because there was an adult league, right, which was on and off, right? The new version of that was the Wolf
Correct.
League, right? And again, because of lack of support and so on, it struggles, right? There are very few teams and so on. We might have had the best days again, probably around 2013, 14, somewhere around there, with consistent competitive games and so on. But again, if you have to consider or find an area to put a young girl, I'd say 13 or 14 years old, into a competitive environment, you would really find it hard to do that, right? And outside of the secondary schools girls tournament, there's not much stuff going on.
But doesn't Wolves still exist?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So every year we have a women's league that we still run?
Yes. Yeah. Well, remember, we have to kind of crop out the whole pandemic situation and so on. And before that, you had the scenario of football not being funded as it was supposed to. And obviously, if the men's game is not funded, we know what happens, going down, because in this situation, it's more or less of a trickle-down effect, right? Where the women's game, the amount of focus that is put on it, again, we say it's not to the level that it's supposed to be. Because for me, I think if we develop and put some attention on the women's game, I think it's easier based on the qualifying process and so on, to qualify for international tournaments from a woman's perspective than from a men's perspective.
But
I think the gap for us, I believe, is shorter.
Right, it may be shorter than the men's, you mean? Or,
Yeah.
Right. I think it's the same gap, right? Because you have to understand that everywhere else in the world, except the Caribbean, has a professional women's
Football league.
Yeah.
All right, and right, you cannot improve in anything if you're not doing it every day, right? You can have foreigners who are less skillful, right, than you are, but because they are playing it every day, they will improve faster than you would, because you are only doing it once, twice, four times for the month. So we have to understand what it takes to get the results that the population desires. And in football, it takes, right, money and a proper administration. But the first thing is it takes money. And the fans want results, but then the fans don't go and pay at the turnstile to go and see a league game. And therefore, they want results, but they're not doing what is necessary to have the improvement there. They expect the association, as anybody else, they expect the association to do everything. And right here, the bacchanal here and there about the association, but still expects the national teams of this country in all sports to give results.
Exactly. All over. Now, I think in terms of priority, I see it a little bit differently. I understand, and obviously resources financially and otherwise is important. But I think before that comes the plan. You must have, because that will determine how you use your resources, regardless of how much or how little it might be. Because you can have a whole heap of money.
So let me ask this, Jeff, before you go on. Who's doing the plan?
There are people who are charged, who we have now.
So you have no money, but you want that plan. How are you paying them to do your plan?
No, there are persons who are being paid now. No, not as volunteers, Steve. The purpose of our football administration, TTFE, we have people who are engaged full-time, right? We have a technical director. We have, well, not at this present point in time, but we had a technical committee. We had full-time staff.
And coach.
We have coaches.
All right, let me stop you again. The technical director of the last was also being owed. So at the end
of working, you're owed, but you're working, right?
But how much work? But Jeff, it's the same thing. Some people would withhold
I understand.
their services.
I understand
so
that.
at the backbone of it, you are saying that it's not finances, right? Before finance comes this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
But no, you need the finance to hire the right people to put in the right places.
I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I'm saying I see it differently, because at the end of the day, there are countries who have way less resources than we have, right? We don't have what we would like to have. We certainly don't have enough. But the process of saying, I don't have, so there is no plan, I think then let's close it down.
But I do not think you are right in saying there is no plan. There was a plan for women's football. That's why I had Wolf. That's why I had the league, right, the women's league, although you had, and that right at one point in time there was a girls' secondary school league as well, yeah, right?
There's still
so don't say that there is no plan.
No, the plan that we're speaking about is not. Those are the different stakeholder groups. Those are not connected. It's not coordinated into any. It's not connected into that in that way. The plan has to be one that is developmental, that feeds into these institutions that you are talking about.
And what I'm saying is there was the plan because we produced...
That didn't have a plan.
So how did we produce the 2014 team that peaked?
But we just said that, right? You had the Joe Public, right?
You
had Jablity, you had Petrotrin. The girls would come out of those camps. Petrotrin had youth thing that they would put on from time to time, and they would do very young girls doing that. Again, it was limited, but out of these came the girls that fed into these other programs.
So there was a plan?
No, there was no plan, Clarky, and that's why I'm saying, that's why the success cannot be sustained. There is no plan. If it is that you decide that you're going to pick up mangoes on the road, that is not a plan. Right? I want to pick up mangoes. The plan is finding where the trees are, knowing what season it is, so that I can know when to go there. You understand what I'm saying? So if I pass and pick up mangoes, that doesn't mean today I may be successful, because guess what? I may have passed in the right time. It's mango season. And I will say, okay, I'll pass back to next month. It's not mango season next month, so when you go there and you get nothing. You know, that's how it is. But we'll build that as we...
We'll take a break, and then when we come back, I would let Clarky respond to what you just said. Viewers, we'll be right back after the show.
Something else is lacking, right? The framework that should take care of the development of players, both male and female, we're speaking specifically about female game now, has to come from somewhere else, and that's what you just said. In other countries, that's where it comes from. In our country, the secondary schools ends up being the de facto developmental competition or developmental tool, which it is not structured to be.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. As promised, Clarky, I'll give you a chance to respond to what Jeff.
No, I can understand why Jefferson thinks that there was no plan. But we have to remember that the national program, and he expects his plan to start from a youth level, right? And I agree with that. But the association, the TTFA, there are two entities in football in terms of development. There's the college league, and there is the TTFA. The TTFA is not in fact, the colleges league is a law unto themselves. And no matter what plan the TTFA has, they cannot force the implementation of that plan to the colleges league. So therefore, the only time the association can implement what they have in terms of as a plan is only in the off seasons of the colleges league, or after these youngsters, even at the men's side, leave school.
So what was the plan?
Right? I don't know the details of the plan, but what I'm saying is that when they got them, they started a women's league. They started to pick players out of this women's league. They started to even help youngsters get scholarship, women's football scholarships from school to go abroad. And our 2014 team was a result of the concerted efforts of the TTFA to bring the women's game up. You wouldn't get those type of results by VAPs or without a consistent program leading in a particular direction. What I would agree with is that the plan needs to be structured for an entire program from getting our girls or youngsters, even men, from a very early age.
Well, that's what I think Jefferson was getting at.
Right? But he has to understand, when he says there's no plan, he has to understand the structure of football in Trinidad and Tobago and understand that TTFA has no authority over the youngsters when they are in secondary school.
We're talking about that.
No, you have to talk about that, because if they have a plan and a technical director and team has a plan for youth women football, it can only be done on the off-season of the colleges league. They cannot take these players. The players cannot be attached to a club if they're in school. That's one thing. All right? So I will let Jeff expand. Yeah.
I don't agree. I don't agree, because if we have a plan, like we had from youth football, nurturing going up to the ranks, college football or nothing
has nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah.
And again, I get the point that the college league, which is a stakeholder group, a very important stakeholder group by that, I think sometimes we try to place a greater burden than should on the college league, because they have played a part in the development of all our players. And because it existed, sometimes it filled the void of not having a very wide...
Totally disagree.
Base. Well, that's fair.
Colleges league is a downfall to our football.
That's fair. And I disagree with that, because we have the colleges league, and again, we try to make the colleges league what it is not. The colleges league is a competition for students, right? It's a student who plays competitive football. All our sports people go to secondary school, and there's a competition there, which is a principals league that they play for 2 months of the year, right? We cannot put a burden on them to do something that they are not structured to do, right? And that's always my input with this. Now, when I went to San Fernando East in their women's program, I worked there, and the football for girls that they have, and they didn't play in the premiership, we had probably 3 games for the entire season, right? Now, a lot of the games were cancelled because some of the schools don't have teams. Some of the schools that are rostered on your games, they don't have teams, or the teams don't show up. And that happened regularly. I think we had, in that season, the girls played, maybe 3 different teams. And again, how are we to say, well, this is for a month and a half maybe. What are these girls going to do for the rest of the year? That's not only school, because again, the school is for education. Football or sports in general is an extracurricular activities within the school's framework, right? So you can't change the school framework to cater for the shortfalls of an association. That doesn't make sense.
Let me explain why. There's no other country or first world country which other first world country you can talk about a colleges league? England? Holland, right?
England,
the Netherlands,
England,
Italy, France. So let me explain this. Wait. I'm going to go on, right? And that is why I said the colleges league is a hindrance, because youths connect themselves from 8 or 9 to a professional club. Right. And the professional club system is where they develop to improve their skills.
Exactly.
If they happen to be in a school program, that is what I'm saying. The colleges program in Trinidad and Tobago bars you from being connected to a club program once you are in school.
In Trinidad?
In Trinidad.
It is not.
So yes, it does.
All the players
Wait, just now. Let me go ahead. They play when they are off, and therefore, meaning that they are no longer in school. School is not just for the 2-month period. And what I'm saying to you is this. The colleges league, their coaches and their program are just for entertainment. The terms of the type of structure you will get in terms of being connected to a club and the type of coaching you will get and so on, you would not get it in a professional league. That is why in Trinidad and Tobago, both the women's game as well as the boys, our footballers emerged on the national team at 24, 25 and so on, because after the college league, you still have so much to do to get them up to national standard. So if you have this 5-year period of development that you cannot get, the European League, they have 17 years old, 18 years old, playing European football. Our players, the last time that happened was in 1983, when you had a bunch of under 16-year-olds that after under 16, they broke straight into the national team.
It happened after that as well. And no, you made great points, and I agree with you on many of them. Your thesis, I disagree with, because the secondary school football is not for that, and that's the point you're making.
No, I'm not making that. I'm not saying that the secondary football is for that. I'm saying it's hampering proper development because people concentrate on the secondary football.
Correct.
They make the most income in football in the secondary football league, and therefore, in terms of looking at a national program and national development, the secondary football is a law unto themselves because they're earning.
Right. And they are running a successful league.
They're running a successful enterprise. Right?
Yeah.
It does not augur well for the national development of players.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying.
Good. Now, my point with this is that should not be, and the term that is a hindrance shows that something else is lacking, right? The framework that should take care of the development of players, both male and female, we're speaking specifically about female game now, has to come from somewhere else, and that's what you just said. In other countries, that's where it comes from. In our country, the secondary schools ends up being the de facto developmental competition or developmental tool, which it is not structured to be. So then these entities that exist, the clubs, right, your community teams that develop in other countries, that's not the model that we are looking towards. Now, I heard an argument
No, that is the model that we are looking towards, but it's being hindered by the colleges league.
No,
let your host get a chance to clear this up. We should have, before elementary school, we should have all the grassroots program that we have coaches doing. They training and the kids get in and they like in football, and then they go to the elementary school and they represent that. And then beyond that, back to the grassroots again, and they train and then they go up and they represent the colleges. And then the same thing, and then they go and represent Wolf.
Correct.
So that should be the system.
Correct. So which means the secondary school is running and providing an opportunity for the same youngster to play a few games a year, right? A few games. But there's another system, and again, our structure is more closely aligned to something like the US system. You mentioned England and Spain and so on. Persons who are good enough don't play in the schools.
Correct.
Because they have another competition that they are going to play in.
Right.
The guys who are in Trinidad or the girls who are in Trinidad, if the best ones will play for the college because that is, again, the most established league, right? It is where they get to participate for the entire year because nothing else is filling that gap.
Right.
Nothing else is filling that gap at this point in time. And that is where the proper development that we're talking about come in.
I hear the difference in us in the U.S. The U.S. has something called AYSO, American Youth Soccer
Right, sir.
Organization.
That's right.
And when you go on the weekends and holidays, you drive and you can see everybody's outside playing football.
Right. And that takes it lower down.
And that is what I'm saying, Steve, that the focus is not on any school football leagues
No.
or anything like that.
No.
As a matter of fact, the school football in the U.S. is more for people after college league who are good to come into U.S. and they have a university kind of league and so on, and their professional players now emerge from there. And that's why I'm saying the colleges league is hampering that. What you're supposed to have is exactly that. A youth football association to concentrate and plan youth football from age 6. Catch these guys from age 6 and have them playing. And you have satellite little organizations now, somebody who say they're a coach and they start a coaching school and they're running a youth program, and it's not tied to the national plan, to anything, right?
Anything.
So I agree with you in the terms of it's not structured in such a way. But I'm saying that one of the major reasons why it's not structured in that way is because people are looking to the colleges league as as their biggest platform.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing. That's what
As
they
their
look
biggest
forward to doing.
platform.
That's what they look forward to doing.
And you know how hard it will be to take that away, to make something structured where it have. But that is where we need to go.
Yeah,
we need to have a
looking back, we had Milo games and stuff that. No, I was a sprinter at that time, so I didn't. But I was in the Ovaltine track business, right? But again, that existed. We did have opportunity for younger children to be involved in developmental football all through our communities, throughout Trinidad and Tobago. But again, that does not exist. So in the absence of that, again, the Colleges League begins to be that shiny object that everybody is attracted to.
It did exist in our times, right, Steve?
Yeah.
When, yes, you had community teams that had under, I think it started at under 12. Right? And we came out with a national team. That's the first time people started to hear about Russell Latapi. A national, under 12 national youth team went to Santo Domingo. And because you had club teams all around. And that is why I am saying that the only way for football to get back to its glory days, we have to go back to communities. Put some effort into the community programs. Let communities end up with their clubs. Like, we had, San Fernando teams. You had juniors back in the days.
Juniors.
You had Coffee Boys had a team back in the days.
St. Madeleine Strikers.
St. Madeleine Strikers. And you had a competition in San Fernando. San Fernando has no community football. Port of Spain has, I think they still have with Rangers and all those sort of things. But you need to go back to the community-style football. And all our national teams now take their players from the Pro League.
In the U.S., all the in the 70s when we played, I always say American women national team is my favorite team in the world. If they're on, I ain't watching nobody else. I'm watching them. Because I remember 2 or 3 days a week, our club would send players to different schools, show them how to juggle. They don't know nothing about football. Teach them how, just putting on a little exhibition for them to get them to like it. And then maybe one player is going to get in the middle of about 8 people and they're trying to get the ball and just to get them excited. And that's where football started in America. And they won, the women's team has won more than 3 World Cups, 3 or more World Cups. And they're the best team in the world. So that means It's not where you're born, and it's not genetic, and it's not nothing like that. It's
your
what you put
structure.
into the game.
Yeah. Having
So they can't tell me the game is, oh, you're born with that skill. Because Americans didn't born with that skill. But now they got it. And they have the system that we're talking about, that building block, to make this happen. And you know what? They would be ruling the world in football, women, for as long as they want to, because they have that system in place, man. They have every age group. They have some transition, people who to fill the gap. And that's what makes America so good in the women's football. So now they want the same amount of money as the men, because they are what running the show. Anyhow, what I want us to talk about in the next segment is the day the earth stood still. I want us to relive that period when our football went to the peak. If we can let's get our kids excited again, wanting to make that happen again, and see if we can sustain, because we have to motivate them some way. And most of the girls especially, they don't have the opportunity. So even though I'm thinking Field of Dreams has to provide that opportunity for a women's team as well, we can talk about that in another show. But I want us to talk about what took us there, or how we got there, and relive that moment so we can get people excited again. All right? Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
The women's development started from like how the US will run their program.
Right.
No colleges league, no colleges league for them. They started going around the country finding girls and getting the best out of these girls and have them continue to play football. They started a league with the group of girls that they started and they thought were good, and you got Petrotrin and you got Republic, and you got these girls, and that was their development.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Okay, guys, this is what I want us to do. I want us to get in, talk about, bring back, relive 2014, when we went to our peak and we had the stadiums full. We had here's the Crawford Stadium with as much people as the men game, supporting the women, and that was it, man. That was the highlight. And somebody said earlier about the track to the World Cup, I think is shorter with the women as well.
Correct.
Than the men. I think our women could be in a World Cup, every single World Cup, if we put our minds to it. So let's talk about that. Let's reenact some of that good times, and see if we can get people excited again.
Yeah, for sure. I am hopeful, and again, the work that Jamal and Marlon, they did, I think it proves that if you sustain work and effort, energy, planning into something, that it will bear fruit. That period that we witnessed, I think, is evidence that we are not that far off in terms of the women's game, right? If you look at the competition that we have, the Costa Ricas, Mexico, they're not that far. I mean, America is miles. America, that's not where
just to qualify.
Yeah,
we're
right?
not far from qualifying.
We're not far from qualifying, right? We do have, a long way to go to get up to America, even Canada. But I think if you look at that next group, if we start now, because as Clark, you also mentioned, everybody's doing work. Everybody's trying to get there. Jamaica, the Jamaican just signed for Manchester City, right? A Jamaican female player. So, of course, Haiti as well, right? They're always, very athletic. So that's not really an advantage for us. I remember working with the U17 girls when they got to host here, right? Again, which was another opportunity scouting a goalkeeper was difficult because you didn't have girls at that age who were playing football regularly, so I had to go to some of the schools and look at probably netball as a person who was into volleyball, things like that, to bring into the pool to begin training a goalkeeper. And, those are the things that we had to do because of the lack of opportunity for the girls to play. And that, in contrast to the Canadian environment, I had the opportunity to work with one of the clubs in Toronto as well. And from 9 years old, you had girls who were already goalkeepers. They come in as a goalkeeper, and my mindset was really adjusted to see where they are and the gap between us and them. No, and it's not because we can't do it, but again, the opportunity for them to engage in at that level doesn't really exist. But the 2014 team, when you look at the girls, where they came from all over the country. You had Danielle Maskell from down, Moruga. You had the goalkeeper, Kamika Forbes, was outstanding.
They were
from Tobago, right?
The goalkeeper was from where?
Tobago. The goalkeeper
I
from
thought
Tobago.
She was LeBray.
Yeah.
But didn't she have a sister on the team?
The goalkeeper?
The goalkeeper and a stopper was like sisters.
I'm not sure.
No? Okay.
Not sure.
Maybe
Yeah,
I'm in another.
Right, but that proves my point.
Right, what is it?
The women's development started from like how the US will run their program.
Right.
No colleges league, no college league for them. They started going around the country finding girls and getting the best out of these girls and have them continue to play football. They started a league with the group of girls that they started, had they thought were good, and you got Petrotrin and you got Republic and you got these girls, and that was their
Development.
Right? If you had a college league in there, the development would have been seriously compromised. And the 2014 team came from that type of program because you got young girls who were 12 and 13 getting involved in football. They trained, they improved, and that is how and that is what I'm saying is the way forward for our women, also our men. If you start at that age of 8 and 9 and put them in a structured program or league, in zones, in communities at first, the coaches will have a better opportunity to see the wide range of talent that is out there and could bring it right forward into another good crop and continued good crop of national players.
So let's talk about some of the talent we had. We had Meili.
Yeah, maybe.
We had Yaya.
Yeah.
We had, there's another one who played out wing, was very quick.
Yeah, the two twins from Dong Labre, the two.
Okay. No, they had the girl who was in the program. What's her name? She plays outside right. She plays in professional league somewhere.
There's, what's her name? Shade, Mariah Shade.
No, Shade is another one. But we had some great girls.
Yeah, had some
good talent, and we brought in
girls.
some talent from outside.
Yeah.
And
that was excellent.
Yeah.
So that is the best team that we ever put together as women. How do we get back to that point again? I mean, we have to...
I think Clarky touched on it again, and I would say that we need to build a football infrastructure that surpasses the level of the college league, so that, again, persons who are interested in developing their football would be attracted to that as opposed to a very short...
So we strengthen Wolf. How are we going to strengthen Wolf? How will we make that better?
Definitely. Well, again, back into your communities, right? The challenges that Marlon and Jamal had in those days, I think the attraction for football is stronger now in terms of young girls wanting to actually play football, because I remember working with Joe Public as well, and the girls that you would normally get they weren't athletic. You had to actually do a lot of work in getting girls to be athletic because they just came because they love football, right? The girls who were competitive in terms of competition, they would be playing the girls' game, netball, basketball, probably volleyball, things like that. But now, I think the football is at a level where it now would attract girls to who would want to play from any age.
And that's the key right there you mentioned, the athleticism, because if I am selecting a woman to play football, like a group of, I'm going to pick athletes. I'm going to pick people who just like to be running and do things. And then I could teach them the game.
Correct.
I would hope in the very near future, even immediately, that Trinidadians will stop focusing on our senior teams.
Right.
Because that aspect of the senior team is automatic. If you have a good infrastructure and you start with your development programs properly, this quality on the senior team will be an automatic thing. But what we do here in the girls' game as well as the men's game, we just want results of the senior teams, not concentrating or not looking at what really is the development to reach this level. And at this stage of the women's game as well, we also have to start over, right? The 2014 was the high period, the good period. Yes, I understand that there are girls at that age now that could make the senior team and right and so on. But realistically, do we have the quality in numbers to break the barrier of making the World Cup? Do we have it? And if we don't, yes, they can still continue playing, but we have to start structuring football from 8 years old. And I wish instead of the break-off super leagues and this and that, you have a break-off of the TTFA that concentrates on a youth league, a national youth league. And the TTFA just concentrates on administration and administration of the national teams and allow the zones to go back to under the umbrella of a youth association, right? Trinidad and Tobago Youth Football Association. Under the zones and start back from that. That is where football has to go.
That's where it has to
Well,
go.
that's exactly the type of structure that we would need.
Yeah.
And again, bringing all leagues under it. Right? We mentioned that. And again, if you have that continuity or you have one centralized
Body.
governance over these things, that now would be able, you'll be able to mandate your developmental steps in it.
Let's bridge that. Let's bridge that. Because we don't have a formal organized program like that. So let's bridge that. The technical director can get all the so-called coaches in all the areas. Because I think he has now a little program going on with coaches online.
Yes, Saturday seminars.
So get them with their little groups. And I'm talking women. Get them with all the little groups to try to get something going. And then at least we have something going, and then we can start formalizing it in a proper way.
And I want to stop you again, Steve.
Okay. Just stop.
Again, we are going back to getting coaches to go out there and start something voluntarily. This coaching is a profession. And I have the president of the Coaches right Association here. Coaches is a profession, and this has to be a national development. This has to be in your Ministry of Youth Sport Development. This has to be a plan coming from there that uses the TTFA and the whatever arm that they have for development of national sports.
To get into the ministry with that talk, with that you're saying, exactly what you're saying, like I said, to what the technical director has going on now, you formalize that and get into ministry. This is what we have. This is what we need support.
And I spoke to the president of the Coaches right, association about that, eh?
Yeah.
I did speak to the president of the Coaches Association about it.
So, you know, they always like to see something that,
Organized, structure.
And not only that is community-based.
Right.
Because that is where the life of these things really exists, right? And not trying to snatch them out and want them to stand on their own basis.
Steve, I want to say again, I spoke to the president of the Coaches Association
right.
about that.
Yeah,
and
but-
putting structure together, and I can help in terms of putting it on paper to present it to the Ministry of Sport.
Of course, right now we are in the process of doing that. We're in the process of doing that. We already spoke with persons at that level. But again, that is what I believe will be the catalyst in moving or changing the direction from what it currently is.
And this is what I feel. I feel we have to spend more time on the women football. If we get half of what we spend on men football.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we need to spend some more time because I think we're missing the ball,
Correct.
leaving them out.
Yeah, but
Because
I
we have a
agree
big
with some of the things Bill Clarkey mentioned a couple of weeks ago. By redirecting resources we already have, we can better manage the programs at the lower levels if we, truncate what we were trying to do at the senior levels, both men and women, and providing something that was going to be sustainable to see what we saw in 2014 become, something that's regular. Yeah, something that's regular, which is, I think, we all mentioned that it in the women's game, I think it is more possible, right? We are closer to a point where, as I say, every World Cup we should be challenging to get into, into there. And if we, as Clarky say, we had to start now, because at the end of the day, other countries we're talking about it, they're doing it, right? So that gap is going to close quickly as well.
I've seen some good talent. We have field of dreams. We have North-South men, and then we brought the women on in the colleges, and I see some great talent in the colleges. But again, the girls don't have nothing
Nowhere to play.
go.
Yeah.
They get to a point, and then that's it.
But that's important when you look at the amount of games that your let's not even say USA, but when you look at the amount of games that your Mexico or your Costa Rican youth teams play in a year
versus what we play.
Compared to what we play, Steve, that is the difference is you want to know how we even step on the same field with these teams and get results, because it's nowhere close. Haiti, the Haitian national teams, they are in Miami, they are in France, they well-traveled. When we carry out our under 17 teams and so on, it's sometimes the second time, third time one of these
because we
youngsters
spend too much money on the senior programs. When the senior program should be an automatic program if we spend the money on development. We spend the money on getting 20 and 25 years or 20 and 25-year-olds ready for a national team when that should have been done at 16 and 17.
Correct.
So when your administration go back into office,
When what, sorry?
your administration.
Not
go
my
into office.
administration.
When you're not going to run for president?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So when whatever administration you go back into office, I want to see some more of this happening.
Yeah. And I would be back in no administration, Steve. And right, that's another topic for another day. But right, football needs a total rehaul. And if it is that people are not dedicated and understand and futuristic in their thinking, I would not be involved in football. I will continue to write comment and see if it can go in the right direction. But I'm going to write, I support, my friends like Jefferson on the outskirts with any areas where I can support them. And
I don't like it when they say they're not going to be involved. We have to be involved. We have to give back. to the youths coming up, and we cannot leave them. We cannot forget them, abandon them. So we have to. For the women out there, you girls keep the faith. Something is going to happen, and keep playing and keep trying hard to get to the pinnacle. Jefferson and Anthony Clark, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you, guys. But and another time, we see what's going to happen. ACTN, thanks for the opportunity. We do have a Facebook page. You can check us out. And we do have an email address, fieldofdreamtt@gmail.com, where you can drop us a line. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. And we do repeat on a Tuesday at 1 and a Saturday at 1. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David.